Hey everybody, this is Mary and Cowagowan.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and TV that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Santa Claus, the movie, TM. You know it's
Yes.
trademarked. Come on.
It is. Oh, absolutely. Santa Claus the movie, of course, is the 1985 holiday classic. Not in America, at least. They say, or the internet says it's considered a holiday classic in Europe. It's specifically England, Ireland.
Really?
Apparently.
Okay.
Apparently.
I want to know why that is, but okay.
Yeah, I've heard, I've seen comments and stuff like on the IMDb and other places when I did the 5 minutes of research I did on this movie. Going into this movie kind of just like, I hadn't seen this movie since the 80s.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look, a lot of times I do a lot of research, like, because it's something that really I deeply care about. But I just remember this as like that crazy, weird Santa Claus movie from the 80s with Dudley Moore.
Okay, so this being big in, you said the UK, the British Isles, is this like they love Jerry Lewis in France and nobody really understands why, or is there some connection?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, Dudley Moore, Native Son. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe it's just they go gaga for all the Dudley Moore properties.
They have affection for John Lithgow. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe.
But anyway, okay.
Hard to say. Yeah. But this one was directed by a French director whose name is spelled Jean Knott. I'm assuming that's Jeannot. It's like a pair of jeans and then the word knot. Jean Knott.
Okay. I have nothing for you. I took Spanish in high school, not French.
His last name starts with 3 consonants. SZW. Zwark. So famously, this director directed Supergirl, which is one of the worst movies of the 80s, if you ask most people, and a bunch of television shows,
okay,
like up to the modern day, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal. Like he just became this, like so many of these guys do. They direct a movie or two in the 80s. And then they just become these workman television directors. So this isn't going to be one of the times where I gush about the director and all of his previous works because the one movie that I know that he directed is kind of crap. Also, he directed Jaws 2, which is okay.
Okay.
Which is okay. No, I got no problem. It's
one.
If he had directed
the one in a water park.
No, that's Jaws 3. I was going to say if he Jaws 3D. If he had directed Jaws 3, then that would just be like an amazing set of failures that he had directed, including this, which was, at least in America, a box office failure.
Kind of, once you have a number of failures, you kind of like own it. Like, yep, that's what I do.
Yeah, but no, Jaws 2, which is a serviceable Jaws movie, it's just basically like a straight up retelling of the first movie with a few changes. Like, hey, remember that shark? Yeah, that shark that had a kid. Or
that
something.
Mayor is still there and still doesn't get it. Okay.
Yeah,
but anyway.
he is still the mayor. Just like there's a comedian who has that joke. Like at the beginning of Jaws 2, the mayor is from the first movie is still the mayor of Amity.
Well, the number of schmucks who are in elected office who keep getting elected.
Yes.
And that's true no matter what your political leanings. People love incumbents. Okay. Anyway,
totally.
Back to the real purpose.
Just real quick breakdown of this movie. This movie is like 2 movies in one.
Yeah.
Just 100%.
Odd combination, I have to say.
It's the first hour is Santa Claus lore. And it's just, here's this toy maker. He gets lost him and his wife get lost in a blizzard, and they stumble onto the Valikins, the Wunderkins, I can't remember what the name there's a name for the elves, and they're the little people who live in the mountains, and they bring them into their magical kingdom of the North Pole, and he becomes Santa and he becomes immortal, and they make toys and deliver toys forever. And there's an old man with a 30-foot long beard, and it's just spectacular. Like it's the coolest backstory for Santa you could possibly think of.
It's all very weird. Well, I have comments about that, but
we'll get to that.
Yes,
yeah,
I thought we would.
I'm just doing a real quick
because
we have a special guest on this episode. So I want to get to that real quick. And then the second half is a very blunt instrument version of capitalism bad, in which John Lithgow's BZ gets and works with Dudley Moore's Patch, who he is a disgraced elf who leaves the North Pole after screwing up a Christmas with his industrialization ideas for the North Pole. And BZ takes advantage of his naivete, and they try to create Christmas 2. Literally, they try to create Christmas 2
in March.
And everything goes wrong, and then the day is saved by Santa and by the power of believing in Santa and love and imagination. We
assume that Santa's workshop goes back to old-fashioned ways. They kind of didn't tie a bow on it. There's much, they didn't die.
Yeah, the two people who were put in danger at the end of the movie didn't die, and we live happily ever after. And that's pretty much it. It's these episodes are always, the structure's always a little bit weird, because normally this little intro part would sort of spin us into our conversation, but we're gonna throw over to our session with Will and let you guys hear his thoughts. I guess there's no holding that back. So let's do that now.
Who is 12, by the way? Just keep that in mind when you. Yeah.
Yes. And here's William.
Hi. It's me. I'm back at it again.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just got done watching the 1985 Christmas classic, Santa Claus the movie. And
the 50-year special.
The 25 year special. And so do you want to give us just your overall thoughts? You want us to ask questions? How do you like to do it?
Questions and both.
Okay, I'm going to start with the pressing question.
Okay.
That I think is on everybody's mind the first time they watch Santa Claus the movie. Is Santa Claus dead?
No, he said he's living immortal at the start.
Right, but at the beginning of the movie, they are in a snowstorm, and the reindeer and Santa Claus's Mrs. Claus collapse.
What?
And appear to be unconscious, and then magic happens, and then they're immortal.
Yeah.
Did they die?
Okay, right.
At that point.
No. So he said unconscious. Doesn't mean dead.
They appear. They could be dead. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's
magic.
It's up for interpretation.
Anything.
It's up for interpretation.
The elves just took their dead bodies and used their magic and brought them back to life.
The elves that no one who's alive has ever seen. Effectively, what I'm asking you is this Santa Claus that we see in this movie a zombie?
No.
Is he a zombie?
His skin would be decaying.
In the lore of Santa Claus
lore.
the movie, is he a zombie?
By the way, this movie has a lot of Santa lore.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Starts in like the 1300s and goes up to the 80s with capitalism.
So you are in the camp of Santa Claus is not a zombie?
No, it's magic. Okay. Magic can do anything,
including revive Santa and keep him alive indefinitely to serve the what were they called, the Vanderkins.
They dispense with that word pretty early,
pretty quick.
So I don't know.
Because that's offensive to our kind. We want to be called elves.
To serve the elves.
Elf god.
That would be my contention. I agree with you. Magic can do anything, including bringing 2 reindeer and 2 humans back to life to serve as their indentured undead servants for all time, delivering toys.
They're not undead. They just have been brought back.
Well, that's what a zombie is. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, no zombies.
No.
Yeah. What did you think about all the Santa lore? Do you like this sort of backstory for Santa?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Just a solid yeah. No additional. Perfect. No comment.
Well,
10 out of 10.
Yeah, but what at the start when they're telling the story, it sounds like it's like they're telling the Santa story.
Yeah.
Sounds like, oh, Santa, he's real and he's already happening and he's popular. But it was just that one grandma telling the story and waiting for Santa to arrive. Yeah.
It's like a very isolated. He is a real person who is a toy maker who brings toys to kids on Christmas, but it is just like one village in northern Sweden or something.
Yeah.
I think the story she was telling was more about the elves who probably were legends and no one's ever seen one. But
he was
blah, blah.
real. She was telling a story about the elves.
Oh, but they had him in there.
But to us, it sounded like Santa
It's
and the elves.
the beginning of the
because
Santa lore.
We're primed for
Santa lore.
Yes, a lot of Santa lore. Yeah. Mom, you have any questions?
Oh.
Capitalism.
So Dudley Moore in this movie plays Patch. We'll get into this in the.
Otis and Milo.
He's right. He's the voice
Otis
narrator.
and
Milo and Otis.
Milo
The Adventures of
Otis.
Milo and Otis. He's the narrator. He plays Patch, who is he is the elf that thinks that things can be done better. With the way industry, the way of the future.
Yeah, no, we're learning about the Industrial Revolution. Think of Patch as the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, yes.
Just bring in all the factories.
Yes.
Except not the dying poor people and the horrible housing conditions
Yes.
and pollution.
None of that.
No tenements in this one.
Yeah, just the factories run on magic.
Everything appears to be either run on magic or steam power that he does.
Yeah.
So, Patch seems to be a big proponent of steam. Like one of the first things he says to Claus when he's brought to the North Pole for the first time is, "I have some ideas about heating this place using pipes."
Pipes.
Yeah.
Pipes. And they're like,
What
they're
the
like, what?
heck is a kilometer? I mean,
What are you talking
I said kilometer. What the heck is a pipe?
What's a pipe?
He's very eco-friendly, really.
Yeah. So what did you think about his approach? Because there's a point where he gets to vie to be Santa's number one assistant, and he does things the Industrial Revolution way versus the elf who thinks things should be done the old-fashioned way. What did you think about his contraption that he built to make toys?
Yeah, that's smart, but you got to make it clear so you can see what's going on
Right.
and see the screw ups.
You got to do quality checks.
And you got you got to do quality control.
Bring in
right.
the safety inspectors.
Yep.
Bring in the OSHA. Bring in the OSHA approved safety inspectors.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. What was your takeaway from this movie?
Capitalism bad.
Right, capitalism bad. I think that's the idea. They just so the first half of this movie is just like, hey, Santa lore. And then the second half of this movie is, I have a big stick and it just says capitalism bad on it. And I'm going to hit you on the head with it repeatedly.
many times.
Over and over. And so you get it. Did you like the villain?
Yeah.
BZ from BZ Toys.
The zoom in though.
Yes. Yeah. There's a point where he spins around.
He's in the house of Corny.
He's in his house, because what we find out throughout the course of the movie is he's her step uncle and her parents are dead.
I assume.
And he's taking care of her by
not really.
having a nanny who takes care of her 24/7. Yeah, and she comes in, the nanny's like, "Go say hello to your step uncle," and she comes in and she's like, "Oh, I hope you're having a Merry Christmas," or "I hope it's going to be a Merry Christmas." And he spins around in his chair and it zooms in on him. He goes, "It certainly should be."
He's got the cigar.
And he's got a cigar.
He's like a caricature of like FDR meets the Penguin, kind of.
Yeah, he's kind of actually funny. You should say that.
Yes.
He's kind of like Burgess Meredith doing the Penguin. The one of the things that your mom and I chuckled about is I believe his name is the Ancient Elf in this, the guy with the really long beard.
Yeah, Beard Man.
He is played by the actor Burgess Meredith, who one of his many roles was playing the Penguin, who is a Batman villain.
Yeah.
In the 60s
Isn't
Batman.
he
Usually
fat?
he's
Penguin
depicted
is.
as fat. Yeah.
Burgess Meredith is not.
Yeah. He wore a fat suit or whatever, during the filming. But yeah, he did the Penguin, and kind of did it in a way that was sort of similar to the actor who was playing BZ and the way he kind of hammed it up for the camera. So that was interesting.
Yeah, lots of dramatic chewing on cigars and see, rah.
Okay.
He's Jimmy Cagney is his father. Don't give me that look.
Yes.
So, okay.
But let's keep this focused on Will. Sorry.
Okay. So, what time period would the modern ages, quote unquote, be set in?
In this movie?
The 80s?
Yeah, like contemporary, 85.
Dang. If only it was set in the 50s, then Yuri Gagarin wouldn't be the first man in space. BZ would be.
Right.
Through the power of magic candy canes.
Right.
Candy canes. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah,
candy canes.
Yeah, this movie ends with the villain flying off into space because he ate too many candy canes laced with reindeer food.
I thought he was just gonna shove him in his mouth and he was gonna explode.
Yeah.
No, that would be the rated R. That would be the rated R version.
The rated R version.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna like hold the candy canes over the radiator so they would explode and everyone else would be injured and he could escape.
Dead.
But he had a whole different plan.
I think that's probably more planning than he had time for as,
Yeah.
as the
Possibly.
police were raiding
Yeah.
his shoddy toy operation.
How did they get up there? The fences look like 50 floors.
You know, it's not.
They took the really
It
fast
was
elevator.
just he was just on an upper level of the factory. Like he wasn't in a high rise or anything. Like he was maybe on the third floor,
Oh,
maybe. Yeah. So I just think they just ran up the stairs. Plus, it's editing.
yeah.
It's a movie.
It was
happens
the
that
end.
way. Yeah. And they had to wrap that story up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was your favorite part? You have a favorite part? What'd you like?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part?
I gotta think.
Did you like the car? The Patch made? The Santa sleigh that he made that was like a wacky toy car?
Yeah. No. One of my favorite part.
Sure.
So when all the toys from Patch's toy thing get shipped out.
Yes.
No. Listen to me, right?
Okay.
So they're poorly manufactured, and
Because of his machines.
yeah, and so the first one that they show, it falls. it like falls.
It's like a tricycle.
Yeah, it falls apart, and
The wheel falls off.
and then the kid just like, and then and then the father just grabs it and chucks it on the road.
Yes.
And then the next one, same thing. And the final one, there's a wagon, right?
Yeah.
A wagon. So the handle falls off, I think.
Yeah.
And it's going into the street.
Mhm.
Next thing that you know, the magic school bus is cruising down the road and almost destroys it with its front tire. I think hits it with the front tire, and then it goes under the bus and then gets crushed by the back tires.
Yes.
It was very dramatic.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yes. Quite the PR
I
black eye for
recommend
Santa
that.
Claus.
I recommend that scene.
Just watch the whole movie just for waiting for that
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah. I liked how things get returned by going down the chimney at the North Pole. I was like,
They're in a
how
fire. How will they not get
How
burned?
does that work?
That's
I
how
don't-
everything. That's the in. That's the egress. The ingress
I get
for
that.
the North
I
Pole.
get that. What's the method for starting the return?
Yeah,
Do you know?
I guess people just have to say like, I want to send this shoddy
Yeah.
stuff back to Santa Claus,
didn't
and then
know
it just
you could-
zooms up their chimney.
I didn't know you could do that. I would have used
Apparently.
that a couple times.
Yes,
I
quite.
want to send this doll cut in half back to Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Also, corporate lawsuits.
Yes.
My favorite. There is glass and toys and flammable toys.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
what was-
BZ is a mustache twirling villain. His toy doll has sawdust, glass, and nails inside of it.
Yeah. And there was a flammable one,
Yep.
the sawdust one, and what's the other one? What was the other one?
It had glass inside.
No.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall. Sorry.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that stood out? Anything you like? You like Santa lore, obviously.
Santa lore.
Yes.
Lore.
You seem to like the song at the end credit song.
It's Christmas
Yeah.
near me.
There's a reason it's not a holiday classic. It was yeah.
Green screen.
Yeah, it was in 1985, so it's
but-
they're pushing a lot of the shots in this movie look great. And then several of them they're just asking green screen and stuff to do more than it was capable of at
Yeah.
the time.
Like, at the end, the more surreal the backgrounds looked, the more worse the green screen looked.
Yeah, and it's
The
just
more arctic it got, the more worse the green screen was.
yeah. And the technology just wasn't there. Like the technology, you can look at Star Wars in the 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and they were doing it on a whole different level.
Weren't they using blue screen? Oh, wait, no, that was in
They
the-
were using a combination of effects, and they were probably using blue screen here. In the 80s, it was mostly blue screen stuff. It's same concept, chroma key. You're just removing a color from the background. and putting something else in its place, replacing a color with a background. And now we do that digitally. You got free programs like OBS
Adobe.
for streaming that can do that
OBS.
on the fly. So, it's, something like Adobe Premiere that's a almost professional grade type thing.
Adobe Premiere Plus Pro. Plus Pro easy payment plan for only $5.99.
All right. I see that you've been seeing their ads on YouTube or whatever.
I haven't.
Okay,
That's
well,
just is that accurate?
I don't know.
Adobe Premiere Plus Pro Plus Plan Plus Pro.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we're just about out of information to share or factoids or
Advertisements.
fun
Yes.
if we've gone to Adobe commercials.
There was two. No. Speaking of commercials, there were probably two paid placements. There was one for McDonald's.
Yeah.
A kid just on the glass.
Yeah, the homeless kid in this movie,
Joe.
Joe he's looking through and watching people eat delicious quarter pounders.
And
Yeah, and then
Big Macs.
there was also, out of all the other buildings, there was no, it's in that one scene on the sleigh. There was no things indicate. It was just a big building. But then the biggest one with the biggest sign said Pan Am.
oh yeah, that's
Pan Am
true.
doesn't exist anymore, so McDonald's exists, and now I want McDonald's, but I don't want to go ride on Pan Am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
'Cause Pan
product,
Am's dead.
the tie-ins in this or the licensed products it's McDonald's, Pan Am,
Coke.
and Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer.
I did. Oh yes,
Yeah.
I did notice that.
Which is considered a cheap beer. And BZ, who is the capitalist of the movie, he drinks it. He puts it in a brandy snifter and drinks a PBR out of it, which is at the time would have been considered like cheap bottom shelf beer. People have since developed an appreciation for PBR. So final thoughts on the movie. Should people see this?
Yes.
Yes. Should it be a Christmas classic that they should watch every year?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Ho ho ho. No, one final thing.
All right.
Patch isn't evil. He wanted to do good, but he found the wrong people.
Yes, he was taken advantage of, and
Yes.
and he just wanted to prove to Santa that he could do it after failing as the assistant with the debacle of the bad toy machine.
The Patch-O-Matic creator of toy thing.
Yes, and it didn't work out, and he just wanted to prove himself, and he felt like he had to go out in the world to do that, but it just didn't work out for him.
And then Rocket Car.
Yeah, he made a pretty sweet toy car rocket.
And then the advertisement he was in just, "Hi, I'm from the North Pole.
Yes.
Buy our products or Santa will put you on the naughty list." Ho ho ho. I sure do love being an elf at the North Pole. Look, it's so real. There's people dancing.
Speaking of the naughty list, did you notice that the naughty list was basically invented for the boy who was unkind to a cat?
Oh
Just
no.
keep that in
don't
mind.
no.
Don't mess with
Keep
cats.
that in mind.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Although they didn't talk about, we'll give him coal. I thought that was going to be part of it. Like, well, because Mrs. Claus says we have to give him a present, and that was the perfect opportunity to be like, well, give him some coal. That's but no.
Yeah.
No, imagine it's just like, give him some coal. The kid's just like in like Siberia, just freezing his butt off. Coal arrives. You're like, yes,
Yay,
I
thank
can
you.
survive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Will, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the movie, and we're gonna move on to the rest of the podcast. I think.
Adobe Premiere Plus. I'm still gonna recommend my favorite scene: car crushing. The magic
Yes.
the magic school bus commits destruction of property.
That was
Yes. School bus crushes wagon.
Yes. School bus, wagon versus school bus. Today on Will It Blend?
All right. Say bye, Will.
Okay, bye. This was very funny.
All right.
10
bye.
out of 10 movie.
Okay. We're back to the present. Will is comfortably away playing video games now.
in his natural state.
His natural habitat. That was fun. It was fun watching with him, and he seemed to really like it, which is good.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I'm glad he did.
I love when he just cracks up and laughs hysterically at something, because
Yes.
I'm like, we're not going to hear that laugh for much longer.
Oh yeah.
Because he'll be cool and he'll stop laughing at things, and his laugh will change as he gets
Yes.
older. And I
Sullen
just,
teenager.
yeah, whatever. It's not funny.
Movie from the 80s.
Yeah,
It's a movie from the 1900s.
Surprised in color. Jeez.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love moments when I can appreciate. Yes, he still is a kid.
Yes. Yeah. So this movie, like we were saying before we broke with Will, and as we mentioned during the time with Will, this movie's filled with Santa lore, and there's a lot going on with Santa lore, and that was the thing that always like intrigued me about this movie when I was a kid, because it has this very sort of realistic beginning for Santa Claus, where Claus and his wife are bringing toys to these kids, and they're telling stories. Their elders are telling stories about these elves that live in the mountains. While they're waiting for Claus, he comes, he delivers the toys, and gets caught in a blizzard, and like I said during the segment with Will, I think dies, and is resurrected to do the bidding of the elves.
So. Well, hang on. Yeah. I don't think that's resurrected. That's like some kind of afterlife.
I mean, I think what he realizes slowly over the course of the movie is that he's in hell.
Well, yeah, like, I'm doing this forever.
I'm doing this forever. I'm slowly watching the world change around me to the point where these, like, you know, quaint wooden toys that I was making in the 1500s,
right,
are
not enough.
No one cares about these anymore.
Yeah, that's
everybody wants the latest Nintendo game systems and the you know, electronic toys and all these things.
Open up a whole new factory to make the computer chips. And
right, exactly.
Yeah,
which is, you know, a funny movie to explore, but not what they explore in this movie.
No,
but more so for I think it's hell for Mrs. Claus, because she is just sequestered in the North Pole, basically taking care of like 300 children for her the rest of her life.
I don't think I've ever put two and two together about this before, but I realized there's got to be some really bad slash fic out there, Mrs. Claus and the elves.
Oh,
like while Santa's away delivering presents, Mrs. Claus gets a present of her own, and I don't even want to think anymore about that, but I'm sure that exists, and just that's kind of gross.
I can see you've never been into the holiday section on Literotica.
No.
Or you would know.
Well, when I was in college, and so email was new to all of us, most of us, we didn't have email till we got to college because it was the mid-90s. Well, I got a lot of email forwards because people just chain letters, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Someone sent me a forward that was the same concept, but Smurfette. And all of the Smurfs.
That's a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
But you know Smurfette is trans.
I did not know that.
Yes.
How do we know this?
In the lore of the Smurfs, she like chooses to become a girl.
Okay.
But like starts out as I don't want to speak out of hand.
I don't think I've seen a single episode.
This may be an urban legend.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of the Smurfs. So all
Smurfs
I know
is
they're blue and everything is Smurfy, and there's a cat.
Yeah. Much like Patch in this movie, the Smurfs have one joke, which is they replace a word with Smurf. Like he replaces the word self with elf.
It took me like 2 or 3 times to get it.
Yeah, I was surprised the first time he said it, you didn't get it. Like, because the first time he says it is when they first get the clauses, and he says like elf starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well,
it just goes
weird.
Right by it. And then he says elf esteem, and then he says
elf confidence.
And
and after a while I was like,
feeling a little elf conscious here.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's the one joke that Patch has, and he just runs it into the ground. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you talk about hell, like in eternity with that joke, and that's all you got.
This guy's
like,
just got the one joke.
Boy, Santa's like, this other guy
Patch,
can have it.
I know about your elf confidence. I've heard it. Find something else that rhymes with elf.
I beg of you. I will send you to sit on a shelf.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes, the origin of the elf on a shelf is
right,
Patch said elf confidence one too many times. He was dispatched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the what are your thoughts on the Santa lore that's presented in this movie?
I think, well, I think the movie needs to decide, is it about Santa origin story or the second half?
Well,
you
yeah,
can't do both.
100%. But just what do you think about the lore, like this version of Santa?
I don't know. I kept feeling really bad for the people that were left in the 1300s, whenever it was, and they come across the frozen bodies of their benefactor who made the toys. That's traumatic.
Well, but
for
do
everybody.
they, right? Like,
I think they absolutely
I mean,
do.
Santa has to have a corporeal form because he like interacts with other human beings,
Well,
right? Like
it worked for Jesus.
He physically touches the toys.
I don't know.
Oh, now Santa is Jesus.
No, but I don't know.
Risen. He is risen.
I felt kind of bad for those people who were left behind. One thing that I thought was interesting, the first, when Santa's with the original people, everything is nothing's very colorful.
Yeah, it's very
it's
muted.
Stone and furs, and it's snowy and icy, and there's like cloths with no dyes and everything.
Browns,
and then the elves come and boom. I mean, it's like in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
just everything is super colorful.
It's not neon. Like it's not like Wizard of Oz colorful, but it's still crazy colorful. It's not like they wanted to be like, hey, this is going to be the first time some people see color in a movie.
Yeah.
It's all still like reasonable, but it's just greens and reds and yellows.
Yeah.
Like there's no blues. There's not a lot of blues and purples and colors like that. But it is, it's way more colorful. It's very vibrant.
It's a subtler change, but it's still.
Oh, but it's still a huge change.
Yeah.
That whole section where they're introducing him, like the opening the doors to the toy shop, like that's a matte painting, like clearly of this just like hall that goes off into the distance.
There were a couple of times where I was like, that's clearly a painting.
There's tons of matte paintings.
Well, the thing I don't get is, so we've been waiting for you. What have you been doing while you're waiting?
Making all those toys that are in that infinite hallway of a toy shop.
So were they making toys like in prehistoric times?
Apparently.
So you're going to get a millennium old toy.
Apparently.
Someone was like, it's a rock.
They've been making the same wagon for
So okay, so
years.
Did the elves invent the wheel first, or did humans invent the wheel? Did the elves have the wheel this whole time to make wagons, and they were holding out on us?
Yes,
this is problematic.
Yes, well, it took us a long time to get that far north. So
no, it didn't.
Yeah. Oh, it did. It did. You don't even know. Which one of us is the archaeologist here? I meant what's the one that studies people? Anthropologists. See, I don't even know my own profession.
So not you, clearly.
Clearly. But yeah, sorry, like we got off track. But I was just going to say, when they open that door, and you see that, pseudo infinite hallway of toys that they've been making, like that to me is like up there with the big like movie reveal. Like there's a lot of movie shots. Like I can only think of one other one at this point in my head, but I know there are a lot of other shots where you open a door to like a magical wonderland.
The fashion closet in Devil Wears Prada.
That was that.
Yes.
The one for
Those
me,
who get it.
The one for me is when he opens the door to the chocolate factory.
Oh yeah.
And they go out into where the chocolate river is and all the flowers and stuff. Come with me. That one. That is like the gold standard, and this to me is like right up there with that or above it, because there's, like we were saying, for the director to kind of have made some questionable movies and then just made a lot of television shows. There are a lot of just amazing visual shots, just like the way they're composed. When they get to season greeting, which is never explained, which I suppose is just supposed to be the beginning of the holiday season. That shot is amazing, with all the elves gathered in a like a circle, huddled together, looking up at this like oculus that opens in the ceiling, and then the moon or a star comes across, and when it hits the like right spot,
snow comes down,
and there's just this wide shot of all of the elves gathered, and the shaft of light coming down on them, and snow glistening and catching the light in the shaft of light. It's just as a single frame of film is just it's an amazing shot.
Okay, here's a question about that though. how big are these elves supposed to be? Because in the story that the old woman is telling at the very beginning, it makes it sound like they're tiny, like child size, but they're
I mean,
just
they're Dudley Moore size.
right. And Dudley Moore is, a short adult, but still an adult, and the Santa actor is tall but human
Yeah,
sized.
Lithgow and the Santa, they're tall.
So I was like,
I think he's meant to be like Joe size. Like I think he's meant to be like 12-year-old boy sized.
Okay. Well, there were a couple of times when I was noticing the shots that were, solely on this person or this person, and I was like, oh, they're trying to, it's like a Lord of the Rings thing. We're showing, but then they team together, and I was like, okay, they're in the same proportions roughly.
Yeah, I think they just weren't trying to be super careful about that. I just don't think it mattered to them to enforce this idea of like Hobbit sized.
Well, then don't have in the original tale, they're small as you. A 7-year-old.
Sure.
Like,
but also
anyway.
she's telling a folk tale. Like
Still.
But here's the thing. She's telling a folk tale, but it's a folk tale that is based in reality because we know that these things actually exist.
Yeah.
So, if you were telling a story, if you were a 6-foot tall man telling a story about a strange elf man you encountered in the woods and he was 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
You might exaggerate that down that might become exaggerated down over the years, like all the folk tales.
Sure.
Especially the ones that are based in reality.
Okay, but for a movie, don't set up my
No, I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful because it's demonstrating how folk tales work. I mean, like one time they thought someone was dead and they woke up the next day and now vampires exist.
Well, okay, but is this a movie about folktales or is it about Santa?
That's my point. Is like if it's not a movie about folktales. So
okay, well,
I'm taking that on face value.
Okay, well, but to answer your original question, when it comes to movies about Santa lore, I liked what was it called? Claus.
Yeah.
The cartoon one on Netflix that we watched a couple years ago. I liked that one.
That one's good.
Better.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying, this movie has just two halves. It's got the hour of Santa Claus lore, and the 45 minutes of capitalism bad.
And I think both of them would be better if we could do the full runtime on either.
Yeah.
Or.
Totally. Yeah. But yeah, you can't you got to have a conflict in a movie, I guess.
Well. Right. That's why I think you can. There's no conflict in the first half, but
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And the only conflict that happens in the North Pole leads to the entire second half of the movie.
Well, I think there's a way you could have.
Yeah. Anyway. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just,
you know better than that.
Of course. So as they spin into the second half of the movie, that's when we get into the capitalism is bad version. And John Lithgow in this movie turns in possibly the best performance of his career.
Amazing.
He's on the screen only for 10 minutes.
Well, 20, we were a good 45 minutes in, and there had been
an hour.
None.
He doesn't appear until an hour.
I was told he was the star, and then he's on screen, and I'm like, oh, he still is. Okay,
he does not appear until over an hour, I think, into the movie. But yeah, he's just from the very beginning where he's on trial, and he's a what's the guy's name? Dan Aykroyd in the skit on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I don't. I'll look it up. I meant to look it up before we sat down.
It's the one where he's on a show and they're asking about these dangerous toys, and he's got the guy's like, what about this one? Bag of glass.
Irwin Mainway.
Yeah, Irwin Mainway toys. He's like, it's a bag of glass. Kids play with it. Shiny. Look at it. Bag of glass. And then the guy's like, what about it's Murphy Brown in the skit.
Yeah.
And she's like, what about this harmless, wooden child's, whatever it is. And he's like, oh, look at this. I'm playing with this. And I got a sliver. I got a sliver. After literally defending a bag of glass.
Right.
But it's like 100% that he's in a congressional hearing, and the senator is clearly from Alabama, You know, he's like, Mr. BZ, you're making these toys. And one of his dolls they just put a cigarette near it and it catches on fire. And then when they ask him for a comment, he's like, well, I've always heard smoking can be hazardous for your health.
Which I kind of laughed at.
Which
that.
is,
That was
hilarious.
Pretty funny.
And then he has one doll where they break the head off and they dump it out. And at first it's just sawdust coming out. And then broken glass and nails start to come out of the doll's body.
Like all kinds of things. Like, well, if this isn't an isolated incident, I will certainly investigate.
Yes. We talked Will talked a little bit about it too. You know, he's got the chair spinning incident. When Patch, Dudley Moore's character, tells him that they'll give away the toys for the thing he's going to make for, BZ basically gets him in and is like, well, Patch approaches BZ because he misinterprets BZ's toys being taken off the shelf for a safety recall as them flying off the shelf because everyone's buying them. And he goes to his factory and introduces himself and wants to partner with him to make the thing that will get Santa to bring Patch back.
To trust him again. Yeah. Did we explain
we
that?
Talked off and on.
Okay.
Yeah. Patch made a machine that at first made toys great and faster, but slowly started making them shoddily, and the toys went out, and a lot of
we have
wagons were run over by magic school bus.
Yes.
So he's going to partner with BZ, and he tells BZ like, he's like, well, how much will we charge for this? And he's like, well, we'll give it away for free. And he's like, for free,
right.
And it's 100% over the top.
It's like, pretty fantastic.
It's just it's him in Buckaroo Banzai times 3 or 4.
Yeah. In like a quarter of the screen time.
Oh yeah,
double.
He just every time he just eats the scenery.
He's chewing on scenery as hard as he is on that cigar.
Yes, he's always smoking this cigar and he's twirling it and like licking it and doing all sorts of. And I'm pretty sure he's got like buck teeth in, or he later had some dental work, but his mouth isn't quite right.
That's funny.
And there's a couple times where you see his teeth and it looks like a veneer. Like it looks like not his real teeth. And it's just enough to like change the shape of his mouth. And it's great. Like every scene he's in is just amazing. Like by the end, he's literally kidnapping a homeless child to keep his secret. He is made aware that the new thing that they're making, which what they make is they make this sucker that is laced with reindeer food that Patch brings with him from the North Pole because he was in charge of the reindeer, and it makes people float for like a short time.
So drugs from overseas,
right?
Basically.
Exactly. It makes people float for a short time, and BZ gets okay. We'll give people a taste of this, and then they'll want more. And we'll sell it
like
to
any
him
good drug dealer.
For 100, 200, I don't know. And his little toady is like, where will they find the money? He's like, I don't care where they find the money. Wherever. And so they decide to make candy canes for the next time.
Which is odd because I've never had a candy cane outside the month of December.
Well, because it's thematic. They are creating Christmas 2 on March 25th.
No.
And they have these candy canes. And he's made aware that if they're stored at a high temperature, the candy canes literally explode.
He's like, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, and he's like, don't tell anyone, but this homeless child overhears it, and he literally has his chauffeur imprison this homeless child until they can, he convinces his toady, basically they're just going to, dump all this and sell it, and before anything can happen, they're going to go to a non-extradition country and, sip margaritas and string bikinis or whatever. That's
where we had to explain to Will the concept of extradition and people escaping judgment.
Yes. And it's just, every time he's on the screen, it's just amazing.
About the same time he was in Footloose. Which was the first thing that I saw him in, and I had very negative feelings about it. Well, no, I didn't see Footloose at the time, but I saw like the trailer or whatever. I had very negative feelings about him because I saw the scene where he slaps Laurie Singer in the face because she's sassed back to him or whatever. But you can't believe that the Reverend, who doesn't allow dancing, is this guy, and yet he is. It's hysterical. And now he was on The Crown playing Winston Churchill, also fond of cigars, by the way.
Right.
So, like, how is he this many types of people in one body? It's acting. It's kind of amazing to see him chameleon into people.
It's awesome. Yeah. Also, apparently, let me see if I can find the quote. I can't find the quote, but apparently he hates this movie. He thinks it's tacky.
I mean, it is. That's why.
100%.
It's great.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I would think he would like get it, you know. But let's see. So his character's named BZ, and so one of the things, because I didn't do a lot of research and I don't have a lot of fun facts, I'm gonna drop in some IMDb facts on you throughout our discussions here. So these are the other people who were offered the role of BZ.
Oh, geez, I love
before
these.
Harrison Ford got it. Before
I
John
was
Lithgow
like,
got
wait,
it.
what?
Number one, Harrison Ford.
Okay.
I was literally looking at Harrison Ford when I said that.
I did not see that working.
Yes, Harrison Ford, Burt Reynolds, which would have been great.
That would be much more like the Dan Aykroyd, you know, like chomping on.
Hey, there's a guy make toys. Make toys. Dustin Hoffman, and this would have been the one, because this guy, the last guy on the list, he was never in movies, at least not during my lifetime. But he was never in movies, but he was a household name.
Okay.
Throughout my entire youth, and yours, but he was never in anything except for his show.
Tell me.
Johnny Carson.
What?
Like, Johnny Carson was never in anything, right? He just did the Carson show, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, he wasn't in movies.
Was he a comedian?
He was a comedian, like, in the 30s.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know, but I was
the
like,
60s
what
or whatever.
was he before he was Johnny Carson? Wow.
Yes.
That would have been a turn.
Yeah, like crazy.
Wow. Okay.
Well, while we're here on IMDb, I'll tell you some other things that would have been a turn. And again, this is IMDb's, I'm presuming, crowdsourced trivia section.
Yes.
So take any of these with a grain of salt.
Can I just point out, by the way, that, yeah, this is like the trivia thing. IMDb's version of liking something is, do you find it interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things, I look at them and it's, 478 people found this interesting. And I'm like, 478 people are dumb as shit. That's not interesting at all.
Yes.
Like, this was so-and-so got food poisoning on the set. That's not interesting.
Yeah,
I don't want to know that.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's just
a little grudge I've had against that feature for a while. I'm glad to be able to get that out.
Airing of the grievances.
Cleansing. Yeah, exactly. It's the time of year.
Part of the festivities.
Back to the things that are interesting.
Yeah, speaking of making this film quite a bit more interesting, the first choice, so again, crowdsourced information, who knows? I want this to be true so badly. The first choice to direct this movie, so he was turned down by the producers because he wanted the final cut and to score the movie.
Please tell me it's Michael Bay.
It's not. This is pre-Michael Bay. Well, it's like right at the beginning of Michael Bay. John Carpenter.
That also would be a whole different feel.
So because John Carpenter has two styles of music. Synth, like in like the Halloween theme.
Yes.
And drifter music.
Yes.
This is what he's got. Like this dirty harmonica solo.
As Patch walks out of the North Pole, is it going to be?
Like, exactly. Like, I'm just. Also, this might not mean as much to you, but his choice for Santa was Brian Dennehy, which is great.
I can see that. I can see that.
Which is great for me.
Okay, so yeah, my fun fact: the actor who plays Santa, is Kevin Arnold's grandpa from the Wonder Years.
Yes, he's yes. A lot of
He's been in a lot of things, but yeah.
So let's see. So let me just grab a few others off here while we're here. Let's see. I like this one. Just like a weird one. The ancient elf, who's played by Burgess Meredith.
Okay.
Who most people know as
the Penguin,
as the Penguin, or from his role in Rocky.
Oh,
Get in there, Rock.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
murder him and all that, whatever. So he plays the ancient elf. Another actor considered for the ancient elf,
Danny DeVito.
Fred Astaire.
What? Oh my God. Wait. Fred Astaire was alive at this point?
Apparently.
Okay.
Apparently. Well, so here's what I will say. This movie was around in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
The script, because here's the other one. And it's Fred Astaire adjacent.
Was it Gene Kelly?
The film was first announced in 1978 with David Niven producing. Gene Kelly was going to direct, and it was planned to be an all-star affair. Can you imagine a version of this movie directed by Gene Kelly?
I want that so much.
Oh, yes.
And there would have been dancing sequences, and like, and there kind of were with when they're showing the assembly line and they're tossing the gifts and stuff. But it would have been like 7 brides for 7 brothers in a factory.
Oh yeah, it would have been great.
Oh,
here's the John Lithgow quote. It's just one of the tackiest movies I've ever been in. It seemed cheesy and it certainly never stuck, except in England. It's huge over there. I wish I had a nickel for every Englishman who's told me it's their favorite movie in England. That's half of what I'm known for in England.
Wow.
So apparently quite.
Maybe that's why he was Winston Churchill. The Brits were like, that Lithgow, I like him.
Yeah. So the song that's at the end of the movie, I believe, was written with the hopes that Freddie Mercury would sing it. And it's very high.
Yeah.
Sort of, and apparently recorded a demo, but was he turned it down because he was, they were doing the Highlander soundtrack instead, which I think is great because the Highlander soundtrack is amazing. just amazing.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
Yeah. And this was one I knew, Patch's flying car has a bunch of Pac-Man sound effects. I recognized them when I was watching it, actually.
That's funny.
Yeah, so there's some. You go on IMDb, read over some of the other fun little facts if you want. There's stuff that's like, whatever, like all the toys in the Santa's workshop were donated to children's charities after shooting. Great, that's cool.
478 people find this interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see how many.
Lead a dull life.
No report on that. Yeah. So yeah, just there's it talks in here about the promotional with like Will mentioned McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
So Coke really that was sponsored?
Yeah.
Because what we see is the 2 kids, the homeless kid.
Yeah, which we haven't really gotten into the 2 kids.
There's the Beezy's niece, step niece.
The reveal is that it's his step niece that he's taking care of.
But we've seen her, and she's looking out the window at her. I suppose is a mansion on 5th Avenue or whatever, and she sees Beezy and the kid. Joe, and they eventually become friendly, and she leaves food for him outside, and it's a plate of whatever and a big can of Coke, and he takes it and he drinks, and then immediately belches.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that is that a pro?
I think that's something Coke was embracing at the time.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's bubbly.
Okay.
Then he immediately like smiles and is like, oh yeah. That's the good Coke.
I kind of thought him
That's the good stuff.
I kind of thought I saw him going, oh, that's so good.
Also, I'm pretty sure that was Coke. Like new Coke.
Well, I know. Okay, so when she set the can down, I noticed it said Coke, and on the other side it said Coca-Cola, and I thought, is it a 2-sided can?
Maybe.
Did they switch? Is that a continuity problem?
But it definitely had the new Coke font on the one.
I saw that.
Side.
Yeah, and then the other was script.
Yeah, it could have been continuity.
I don't know.
Yeah, and as was a thing. This is the thing. I don't know if this happens anymore. I don't think it does. Kids of the '80s. Kids who grew up in the 80s will remember this. Maybe not you because you were never taken to fast food restaurants that often. But McDonald's actually did a tie-in with this movie where they every week you could get the storybook that had the movie in it. And of course, the one that I remember the most is the Gremlins one, which came with a little 45 that read it out to you.
We never had any of that stuff.
Yeah. And so that was a thing that they just did in the 80s. Like any movie that was even sort of kid adjacent, which this is obviously a family movie, but there could be arguments made that Gremlins is not so much of a family movie.
Yes.
There was a book with a record or a cassette later each week to get you to come back, and a commemorative glass like literally
Yeah.
a glass
Oh
cup
my
with, a
gosh.
scene
Yeah.
from the movie or so,
Yeah.
some logo on it or something.
I can picture what that would look like because I've seen them just in the world, but yeah, that was not ever something that we were introduced to.
Yeah. But yeah, you're talking about Joe. Joe is like the weirdest part of this movie.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he looks like the little toady in A Christmas Story.
He does kind of
leather jacket, kind of short, shaggy hair, a newsboy cap.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So it's like an alternate universe Grover Dill.
He's got that look. Yeah. He's got that look.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did he ever play in anything else?
Like,
I don't think so.
He says he's never been given a present.
Yeah, so apparently
doesn't have a place to go.
He's a typical street urchin, right?
Yeah.
He's
But he just like materialized.
Yeah,
on the
apparently.
street, like raised himself, and
I guess my favorite part about Joe is that Santa is delivering presents. And he's like, oh, there's one little boy that isn't having a Merry Christmas. And Joe is literally on the street, like putting wood into a 55-gallon drum with a fire, and previously Joe has seen like a wino who's pretending to be Santa doing, a scam to get people to get charity, ringing the bell and all that.
Yeah.
And, he kind of thinks it's him at first and is like, oh, wino, go back, get your own doorway. And Santa proves it with his magic, and they go on a flight, and Joe helps him, and they introduce the concept of the double helix, whatever,
some kind of loop,
double loop or whatever,
which saves the day at the end.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
The Donner he can't do it yet. He's not my favorite. Donner's my favorite. I think he's supposed to be your favorite. He's like the underdog of all of the reindeer, and every time he's nervous, he takes his ears and covers his eyes with his ears.
Okay,
it's great.
I did not notice any difference between the reindeer.
Yeah, no. Every time that they because Donner is the one that's like, he's the first night that they're in the North Pole, he's reluctant to eat.
Yeah.
And anytime something happens, like he's the reindeer when they first fly that looks down and he gets nervous, and then he uses his ear to cover up his eye. It's great. And he does that every time. And then they're all like puppeted. It's great puppet work. Like you almost wouldn't know if you didn't know that animals can't act like that. Like the moment you go like, oh, right, you can't train an animal to act
certainly
with emotion like this and with like be scared and like, it's like, it's like Fraggle Rock. And you may or may not get the reference, but when the dog in Fraggle Rock, when every time that he goes to get the postcard, the dog is there. Mm-hmm. When the dog gets scared, like it's like they're puppeting it like a dog, and then when it gets scared, it chews its claws and like shivers and shakes. It's like puppeted like that. Like it's a very Henson-esque style of puppeting them, but that gives them this like humanity that is not possible for an actual animal to portray.
Right.
You can get an animal to do a lot, but not to like shake in their shoes like they're afraid of something. So Joe, he takes Joe on this ride. They do this whole thing. In the end, he leaves Joe with Cornelia, who is our other kid in this movie, the rich one, the Beezy's niece, and goes off Santa goes off to finish the rest of Christmas. And then the next year he's like, hey, I'll get you next year. Let's do it again. And then the next year, this is after the destroyed toys thing. And, so Santa's kind of on the rebound, and he comes down, and Joe's on a roof waiting for him. And, Joe's like, I thought you might've forgot about me. And Santa like holds his arms out, and they have a little embrace or whatever. And like, in my mind, the next line I insert is always Santa asking him, so Joe, how's it been? Another year of homelessness. How's your abject poverty been here in New York City? You've just been living on the streets for another year. How are you?
Clearly you got enough food out of the trash
out of the
cans.
dumpster. I'm glad you met this girl who's been slipping you food for a year, and but like,
real
I'm just
triumph of social services.
Yeah, Santa is just like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. How's your homelessness going?
Listen, Santa Claus's job description is very narrow.
Yes.
But it's permanent employment for life.
Yeah, like I'm handcuffed here. Like I couldn't help you. First of all, you got to write me a letter Joe does not believe in Santa Claus. Joe does not has never written a letter. He's never had a gift given to him in his whole life because, like we said, he was just birthed by the streets. It just there is some like grotesque like just homunculus that just poops out street urchins.
When those patches in the street, you thought they were from where they put in traffic signals. Nope, that's where the babies come out.
They just pop out of it. So he's never. So first of all, Santa's like, look, you got to at least write me a letter that says, "Dear Santa, please bring me a family."
Gotta follow the procedure.
Yeah, first things first. Like I was expecting, in fact, after our previous conversation last year, I was expecting to have a couple parents in my bag for you this year, but you didn't even write. Like you got to ask. I'm like a genie. You can't. I can give you anything you want, but you got to ask.
I know that you want it, but you gotta fill out the form.
But by the way, here's a wood carving that I made of an elf. Merry Christmas, Joe.
Yeah, Joe was extremely excited about it, and I was like, "What is he supposed to do with that? He doesn't have a shelf to put it on."
This thing it's huge too.
It's really massive.
It's like an Emmy, like the universal size measure. Like it's not. It's like a Oscar and a half or like one full Emmy.
It's not quite as tall of an.
It's like a Tony. It's like a Tony with a SAG award on top of it. This is all I know. I only know how to size things by
the width of an Emmy, but it's a little bit,
It's as tall as a screenwriter's.
It's good for beating off someone who wants to squat in your campsite.
Right.
That's
It's larger than a BAFTA, so that's for sure.
Yeah, that was for the English listeners who love this movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Homeless Joe is just, and are we supposed to be calling him homeless? I don't. Unhoused Joe. At
the time, he
I
would
don't
have
want to be. I don't want to offend people, but also I can't keep up. It's tough. Like if someone tells me what I'm supposed to say, I'll say it. But I don't have I just don't have the time to research what every single individual.
I think this
group or disadvantaged person wants to be called.
I think this is kind of like. Oh God.
Please correct me.
I think you are now. You are supposed
forward.
to say unhoused, but I think this is like when you're reading Huck Finn.
Yeah.
It says what it says.
Right. Yeah, we don't.
Actually, it doesn't say Homeless Joe. That's just us. So I take it back.
No, it doesn't say Homeless Joe. They don't call him Homeless Joe. Hey, there's Homeless Joe. How you doing, Homeless Joe? That's my new character I'm working on. Guy on the street that notices Homeless Joe.
There was a lovely falsetto too.
Hey, Homeless Joe, how you doing there? He's in New York. I had to New York the accent up a little bit. That's Homeless Joe. He's right there. It's evolving every time I do it. They tried to give him a home one time. He wouldn't take it.
Because he's homeless.
He's homeless. It's my identity, he said. What am I going to do if I'm not Homeless Joe? You're going to call me Home Joe?
Oh, God.
It doesn't work.
You're going to make me start coughing in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't noticed, you guys, if I laugh too much, I start coughing. I don't know why. It's weird. I don't like it.
It's a personal weakness.
It is, really. I'm going to try not to do it.
Do your best. So this whole movie, like the plot of this movie goes all over the place, but it's fun. Like I think that's the ultimate thing. Like I said, what I remember about this movie as a kid is that it was just this fun, weird, alternate Christmas movie that not a lot of people knew about.
Yeah. When did it come out, by the way? Does it come out at Christmas?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I can look that up, I guess.
Have research figure that out.
Yeah. Hey, research people.
Well, yeah, because the climax is the climax is like in January, I guess, but it's leading up to their Christmas 2 in March.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume like I don't feel like you release a movie like this not around the holidays. And if you do, that might explain its failure at the box office.
Well, oddly, It's a Wonderful Life, which I know you haven't seen it. That's one of your faults. That came out in the summer.
Yeah, weird.
Maybe that, and that actually was a bomb too at the time. So maybe that's that's why.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I feel like it's a fun movie. John Lithgow is just amazing in it. The whole thing, it's just I think the special effects like Will said, at the end, they're pushing too far.
Mhm.
They want to do this like Star Wars, like, freaking Death Star battle style, like with stuff just zooming everywhere. And it doesn't hold. But the special effects, the intimate special effects, the stuff that they do with matte paintings in the early going, the stuff in the shop, especially like the shop is not even a special effect. Like a lot of that stuff they just built. Like you don't get that kind of stuff anymore. I mean, now it would be like 2 foreground objects and an entire room of green screen. You just don't get that. Like all of these contraptions and all the stuff that's in the background. And that reminds me. So there's a throwaway scene in this movie. The first night that Mr. and Mrs. Claus are there, and Mr. Claus can't sleep, and the camera is in their room. And when he says, I'm just going to get up, these 2 little like cupboard doors open in the wall, and their bed is inside the wall behind these like not Dutch doors, like barn door, like just 2 doors that open outward.
Yeah.
From the moment I saw that, my entire dream for my adult life was to live in a house where I had a bed that was in a cupboard, like inside of a wall, like a cubby like that.
It would be very, very warm.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. And now, so I see these like capsule hotels that they have in Japan, and I'm just like, oh man, I want to go to that. Or like the things that they sleep in on the Fifth Element on the ship when they're going to Floston Paradise.
Yeah.
It's just like these tubes that they get in. Like, I just want to be in a little thing and sleep. I just want to sleep in a little tube or a little cubby.
Did you also, and this is seasonally appropriate to mention, did you also like in whenever they do a Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge has curtains around the bed?
Yeah,
Did you like that too? We can make that happen.
Yeah, that was that would be okay. But also that's like a rich person thing. So, like
we could make it happen.
We could.
Say, say the word.
Yeah.
I can't give you a bed cabinet, but I can give you bed curtains.
Yeah, I can't put you in a cubby.
Yeah. Nobody puts my husband in a cubby.
It's true. That's true. It's true. That's what they say. So the other thing I said I would have words on is the double loop, whatever, which again, they set up with Joe. Donner can't do it. He's too afraid, covers his eyes with his ears, can't do it. At the end of the movie, so Patch finds Joe tied up in the basement of the factory where BZ's chauffeur has placed him. Chauffeur / muscle.
Yeah, think of better hiding places, chauffeur. That's
right. Like he's behind the boiler. Well, nobody knows that that's where the secret stash of reindeer food is.
Okay, but still, in the factory is not a good place.
Sure, yeah, in the factory. So Patch finds Joe. Joe insults Patch and says he tries, you stupid idiot, and then the carving, which again is like the size of an Emmy,
he's been carrying
falls out of his jacket. Somehow
he can't afford a house, but he can afford really big pockets.
Big jacket pockets. Falls out, and Patch realizes that it looks like him and that Santa Claus likes him, because when Santa Claus is carving it, someone mentions that it looks like Patch, and he's like, oh, it doesn't. Oh, I guess it does.
You know what I noticed way at the beginning? One of the carvings that he gave to one of the kids looks like Patch too. So maybe that's the kind of face
this guy just knows how to carve one elf, and it just happens to look like Patch.
Yeah.
Some of those other elves could shave their beards and it would look like them too. And so Patch and Joe become friends. Joe shares his knowledge that the candy canes will explode. Or no, he doesn't know the candy canes will explode. I'm sorry. He shares his knowledge about the nefarious deeds that BZ is up to, and convinces Patch. Therefore, Patch is convinced to take the candy canes and leave. And he's thinking at this point, I'm going to bring these candy canes, and then Santa Claus is going to get a vacation because he's not even going to have to work because I made all these candy canes. We'll just give these to everybody next year, and Santa Claus gets a vacation.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
so they jump in his rocket car, and meanwhile, Corny has learned about the actual exploding candy canes. Sent a letter to Santa, which in July, they say it's July.
I thought it was like January.
January. They say January. I'm sorry. They said a J month.
Which I didn't know that you could. Yeah, because in this universe, You just leave the letter on the table, and it magically levitates into a fireplace, and boom,
you leave the room,
and then it just goes to the north. Yeah, which apparently works all year.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And so she writes a letter to Santa Claus saying that Joe is in trouble because she witnesses Joe getting kidnapped, but doesn't she hides. And
nice friend, by the way.
Yeah. Well, what was she going to do? She wouldn't be there to write the letter.
Yeah.
So anyway, Santa comes to her, and they're going to get Joe and Patch, presumably. They see them flying away. They see the candy canes in the back of
they're glowing helpfully.
Yeah, they're glowing. And they're chasing them down, but they're 2 reindeer short because Prancer and Dancer or something have the flu. And they're just recovering, from their whole night of going around the world. And so they're short. What?
I just the layers of obstacles that they had to get 2 reindeer with the flu.
They're 2 reindeer down, forget about the fact they couldn't do this maneuver with all the reindeer. And the weak link was not the 2 reindeer that are sick. The weak link was Donner, who is still with the party here.
Well, I noticed, so we know that the Night Before Christmas poem exists in this universe because Santa hears it and is offended by the fact that they talk about his gut.
His belly.
But in that one, the reindeer are explicitly paired, Dasher and Dancer, Prancer and, but in this, they're paired differently.
Are they?
Yeah. At some point, he was like, oh, that's so-and-so and so-and-so. And I was like, that's not how the poem goes.
Okay.
So anyway, that was funny. I don't know what to make of that, but anyway.
Me either. So anyway, as the rocket car is driving, the candy canes are heating up. And they start to explode, or it looks like they're about to explode, and Santa's like, there's only one way to save them. It's the double loop, back loop, whatever loop. And he, is like, Donner, you can do it. And they go under the rocket car, and then they do a loop, under the rocket car, back around, and then the rocket car explodes when they're at the top of the loop. And it throws Joe and Patch out of it, and then he completes the loop and gets to the bottom of the loop in time to catch them.
It seems like it would have been safer to just go under,
or you could have just pulled alongside them and said, "Jump in."
Yeah,
your car's going to explode. Jump in.
I don't think the loop was necessary.
There was not he says it's the only way. It was not. It's not the only way.
It's not even a way.
Right. You could have just hovered below them, matched their speed below them 10 feet so that when it exploded, you were down there to catch them. Same effect, whether you do a full loop around them and then are below them,
also,
or you just wait below them.
If you can't go fast enough to catch up to them, how are you going fast enough to do this whole thing? And then you're...
Right, the whole time they're struggling, and he's like, and Corny is like, can't they go faster? And he's like, oh, hey, listen... Girl, they are.
I'd like to see you fly. Come on.
Why don't you get out there, bitch?
Corny. What kind of a name is that, by the way?
Yeah, jeez. And everybody just naturally calls her Corny. They're like, this is Cornelia, and then you just go, oh, hey, Corny.
Yeah,
which is great. I love it. I love it.
Thumbs down.
If we ever have another kid, Cornelia. Although at this point, it's more likely to be another cat.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, so the double super loop, not necessary.
No.
He says it's the only way.
It's not.
And yeah, like you said, she is like, can't they go any faster? It's like, they're tired. They usually have a whole year to recover. And they can't catch them. But in order to do the loop, they have to catch up to them and then go
even faster
past them.
Yeah.
None of this makes sense. This was just like, Chekhov's reindeer loop. Hey, whoa, remember when we mentioned that, how they couldn't do the loop? We were going to have that pay off, right? Oh yeah, in the sequel.
No, I kind of would have liked it if it was, oh, well, now that the reindeer train is shorter, now we can do it.
Right,
we didn't need those 2 in the first place.
He can just yell out, without those fat asses, Prancer and Vixen. we can make it.
Speaking of reindeer, Will noticed that there was no Rudolph, and I had to be like, "Yeah, Rudolph is a 20th century invention. Rudolph is not canon.
He's an amendment to the."
We talk about poor Rudolph, and the other reindeer wouldn't let him play any reindeer games. It's because he came in and stole their thunder.
Right, exactly.
They're like, "Listen, We have been here for 100+ years.
Yeah.
And you come in with your stupid movie and merchandising.
Brand new.
Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, so Santa Claus the movie, it's fun. It's a fun time. Show it to your kids.
It's kind of stupid,
It's
but it's
really
fun.
it's stupid in the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend it. Like I said, it's one of those movies that I saw in my youth and not a lot of other people saw. And people have movies like this.
Yeah.
They have movies that are like, hey, everybody remembers that holiday classic, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody's like, no, we didn't watch Santa Claus the movie. You mean the one with Tim Allen? Like, no. That's the Santa Claus.
Yeah. I have to say, yeah, like if you think you cannot take watching Elf one more time, do this instead. Or if you're like, if I have to see Ralphie in the bunny suit one more time, I will claw my eyes out.
Substitute this for one of the Christmas stories on Christmas Day or whatever.
Right. And there's no racist song with the Chinese people and the duck either.
Sure. There's some questionable stuff. In this, there's at least one that comes to mind when the assistant suggests that they make the sucker that's going to make people fly puce. BZ goes, sometimes I wonder about you. Because Dudley Moore Patch doesn't know what puce is. He's like, it's like fuchsia but more pink. And then that's when Lithgow's like, sometimes I wonder about you.
Yeah.
So it's there. But like for a movie in 85,
that's very mild.
No one says like there was a point where they were talking about how it's early in the introduction of BZ, and they were talking about how people were going to avoid BZ toys, and that they were going to treat them like they had a disease. And I was like, as he was saying that, I was like, he's going to say AIDS.
Oh, no.
He's going to say AIDS.
Oh no.
And he didn't say AIDS.
Oh.
But I was like, it was just like they're going to avoid our toys like they're infected with AIDS. I was like, this can't be like, this can't be in this movie.
Yeah, no.
But luckily he did not say AIDS, luckily, but it was close. She's choked herself up here.
I told you if I laugh too much,
it happens.
I cough.
Is you gonna make it to the end? I think we're wrapping it up, so you'll be okay.
I think.
Any final thoughts on?
This was much more fun than I expected. I don't know if it's really. From a social justice perspective, I don't know if people are going to take away the anti-capitalism message. But that's fine.
Well, and the way this movie ends is just the two kids just get to stay at the North Pole for the rest of the year.
Well, yeah. Well, and BZ is like floating off into space.
I forgot that. BZ floats off into space because he eats, so he gets busted.
And I mean literally in space.
He gets busted, and because Corny says she called the police, but she didn't think they believed her. And then the police show up at the factory. They did, in fact.
SWAT team.
And it's like a SWAT team. And he is it's another great image. Like, it's not a thing he says, but he's just got his desk drawer full of candy canes and he's just shoving them in his mouth as fast as he can. And he's chomping these candy canes.
For a second, I was like, is he hoping that he'll explode? And this is like suicide by candy cane? That's really dark.
Yes.
But no, he just floated away.
He jumps out the window and then floats away. And then the last scene of the movie is him and some like toy debris floating off into space.
He ate so many candy canes that he will never come down. Never. That's why we try not to be gluttons, kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the end of the movie is they don't officially adopt Joe, but there's hints. Because there's a point where Santa's like, Joe, it makes me think about if we had ever had a son.
Yeah.
So like in my headcanon, they adopted Joe, and like Corny can come visit whenever she wants because she's neglected, because now her uncle is his dad.
I thought she was going to stay there too because
the last thing they say is he says, "Oh, can Corny stay too? You can take her back at Christmas." And they're like, "Oh," and then he makes the like head elf. He's like, "Oh, can we stay?" And the head elf's like, "I guess I have to be a teacher." And the kids are like, "School, no!" Yeah. So it's as with everything in this movie, everything is rushed in this movie except for the hour of
Yes.
in-depth Santa Claus lore, which gets all the time it needs, and then everything else is just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff that they could have, like you said, in a full version, they could have lingered on a lot longer. They could have explored a lot deeper, but it's just like, no, we're moving this story along. We got to get to the end. We got to get this guy in space.
Yeah. It felt like two movies that they didn't want to make a full-length version of either one, so they just smushed them together.
Yeah, or in the modern parlance, it's like an 8-episode Netflix. Like it could have been an 8-episode Netflix show.
I did think it was interesting the way that they blended the two together, because it was because like at one, you would see all these, like you see an hourglass and it's moving through the centuries.
Yeah.
And at one point, kids start writing letters to Santa, and you see that. And then you get the Night Before Christmas poem. And at some point, one of the elves brings back a snow globe that's been newly invented or whatever. Yeah. And you look in on the snow globe, and it's Corny's building. And so we get a scene of them.
And then it comes into
it's back.
It's very cool.
And I thought that was well done. For such a things where a lot of other things are kind of disjointed. You could have been like, oh, we're done with Santa lore. Okay, now on to
like for as much smack as I might talk about the director and some of his previous projects, like there's craft in this movie. Like there's a skillful hand at work. And like I said, like I didn't see who the production designer was or the cinematographer, but there are moments and shots, like there's at least half a dozen single frames. Like a lot of times I think about movies in that context of like, what is that single frame from this movie that is like iconic? It's like, what this shot is just a master stroke of like filmmaking. Like it's framed correctly. The special effect is good. The moment is right. And this movie has like half a dozen of those. And so there's some craft in this movie that seems to be the director punching well above his weight, or maybe he just never got the opportunity because material like Supergirl and the sequel to Jaws is not necessarily, the media stuff.
It's kind of like an IKEA dresser, but it's got hand carving on the front, and you're like, I didn't expect that to be here. Oh, okay. And that's the only like really notable thing about it. It's, but from any angle, it's just like crap, but here's this thing.
Yeah, very good. But watch this movie. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's a Merry, Christmas or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever if you celebrate
Happy
or you don't. Happy
holidays.
Festivus and all that.
Yay. So
I think that's it.
Folks, we would love to know what you think about this. If you are British, please tell us what you think of it and why is this so popular. I'm dying to know.
Is it and why?
Yes. You can. I lost my spiel here. I don't know.
I don't know. For a couple of weeks.
All right. Back on track. Here we go. You can reach out to us in a couple different ways. You can send us an email. You can write to us on Facebook, or you can reach us on Twitter. And our handle is the same for all three. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours, on Facebook or Twitter or at gmail.com. Also on Facebook and Twitter, we list, we have links to every new episode. We have new episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode up. If Facebook and Twitter are not your thing, you can find us on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Apple Podcasts. And while you're there looking for that, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe. If you rate and review, that helps other people find out about us. And if you subscribe, you'll get the latest episode right in your queue. And let's see, as we said, new episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, I am hosting, and I am going to show Dave The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Okay.
It's going to be Streisand with the long nails.
Oh, I don't know anything about this movie.
This is,
much like you in the Santa Claus.
You're in for
Santa Claus movie.
A treat. I don't know. This is a strange movie that I have affection for. So.
Cool.
Yeah. So
bring it on.
So we'll see you in 2 weeks with The Mirror Has Two Faces. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io.